In the wild highlands and war-torn plains of Central Asia lie tantalizing traces of the ancient world. Here 2,300 years ago, Alexander the Great became the first European to rule the East. In an epic campaign, the ancient Greeks crushed the Persian Empire. It was a turning point in human history. Along the banks of the mighty Oxus River, Alexander discovered a highly developed Eastern civilization. My name is David Adams. I'm a photojournalist, and I want to explore the footprints of this ancient world, today almost entirely erased. This is my quest for Alexander's lost world. In 330 BC, Alexander and his army marched east into the land of Bactria on the river Oxus. They'd already endured 5 grueling years of battle. Yet despite a series of decisive victories against his Persian enemy, Alexander pushed on. Drawn by the promise of the most treasured resources in the world. For Alexander, the Oxus was a place of myth, legend, and riches.
Well, let's consider for a moment that Alexander and his generals knew exactly where they were. They'd come to the Oxus because they believed that this was the land where Jason and the Argonauts came. So was this the land of the Golden Fleece?
I want to follow the ancient trade routes and time-worn trails that today cross the Badlands of Afghanistan. To discover the treasured resources the Greeks found in the East and took back to the West. We're traveling along the Oxus to find the precious raw materials that made this region a highly prized crossroads in the ancient world. Navigating through this terrain successfully today is just as challenging as it was in Alexander's time. The middle delta of the Oxus is a constantly changing landscape of sandbanks, channels, and shifting islands.
Well, we've just had to take another route because the river, which is totally in flood, has come in and taken out the road. And it just shows you how much this place changes. Almost overnight, the whole roadway can get taken out, a whole village can get taken out. You just look down here, this place is just falling apart. No, he's just digging himself in too. No. If he gets it out, stops it, then we shorten the rope, okay? Okay. Go. Oh. Yeah, very good.
Alexander faced the Pamir and Hindu Kush mountain ranges of northern Afghanistan. And just like the Greek regiments marching into the unknown 2,300 years ago, neither Jamshid or Habib, my guides, have ever traveled this route before. From now on, we have to rely only on my GPS and directions from locals. As an outsider, finding your way in Afghanistan today can be almost impossible.
It's on
One of the problems is we're using maps made in the 1980s when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. And the place names are very different now. The map has changed even more radically since the time of Alexander. The Greeks called the Hindu Kush mountain range the Caucasus. But today, the mountain range we call the Caucasus lies 2,500 kilometers northwest in the modern Republic of Georgia. It's this confusion of ancient and modern place names that has led many academics to assume that Alexander was at times hopelessly lost. I believe that far from being lost, Alexander knew exactly where he was. Accounts of explorers and ancient mariners stretch back into the mists of time. Alexander would have heard of the famous explorer Cyclax, whose journey in 515 BC took him from the Mediterranean to Afghanistan and beyond. But Alexander may also have been following a much earlier tale of riches in this mysterious region. The myth of Jason and the Golden Fleece is perhaps the earliest account we have of a voyage to the east in search of treasure. Jason was undoubtedly one of Alexander's heroes. Buried deep in the legend is a whisper of truth. And there's an important link to Jason's story here in Afghanistan today.
Let's consider for a moment that Alexander and his generals knew exactly where they were. They'd come to the Oxus because they believed that this was the land where Jason and the Argonauts came. Well, there's one thing that remains from that time, and it's the way people get gold out of the river. This is actually sheep's fleece. The gold comes down and is washed through it. And when you pick it up, the fleece carries gold. So was this the land of the Golden Fleece?
Mineral treasures like gold made the Oxus an alluring prize for any conquering army.
That's fantastic. Well, he's actually got quite a bit of gold here. It's very, very high quality. And what's incredible is this really powered this empire right through all the different civilizations.
And the ancient treasure trove is still here for those that search hard enough.
Jamshi, how much money are they going to make from this?
It says that if we work very slow, 100 hours, 50 hours. But if you work, 10,000.
So that's about $200. So it's not bad business, this, even today. $200 a day on each one of these. There's 2 operating at the moment. $400 a day is pretty good money in northern Afghanistan. What?
The Argonauts sailed from Greece to the land of the Golden Fleece. The trouble is, it's not possible to sail from the west all the way to Afghanistan today. But at the end of the last ice age, around 14,000 years ago, the climate changed. Vast ice sheets of the northern hemisphere melted, making sea levels much higher. So high that a waterway, the fabled River Phasis, connected the Caspian and the Black Seas. The Phasis stayed open for thousands of years. Jason's myth could be based upon tales of the first brave mariners of the Neolithic age. 8,000 years ago, they travelled and traded across the seas, eastwards to the Oxus River. By the time of Alexander, the river Phasis was closed, but the idea of the Golden Fleece lived on. And once Alexander conquered ancient Bactria, the Greeks used the wealth from trade in these materials to develop their empire in the east. To this day, the rivers of Afghanistan are laden with alluvial gold. And in the hills, silver, iron ore, rubies, and dozens of other rare minerals continue to be mined. Extracting precious ore was easy. Transporting and trading it was the hard part. Aside from the perilous journey itself, ancient traders lived with the constant threat of bandits. For Alexander, finding this source of precious raw materials may have been a prize worth fighting for. We're heading for the ancient trade routes that cross the Hindu Kush. The name of this vast range means Hindu killer, because it is one of the most unforgiving landscapes in the world. Today, these roads are used for opium smuggling. 70% of the world's supply comes from Afghanistan. Much of it is trafficked through here. This area has also recently seen Taliban activity. And even though I prefer to travel unarmed, Jamshid insists on borrowing a gun for this leg of the journey. We reached the village of Atop, and while Jamshid asks for directions to the road south, I head up to the remains of a Bactrian fort. For Alexander's soldiers, left here to garrison this position, it must have been a lonely and forbidding place.
Well, we're now heading into the mountains. We're about 40 kilometres from the Oxus. And these were fortresses, probably to secure trade or even a farming area. But we know this is a really ancient site because the French were here in the 70s. And they actually had a cursory look around and found some pottery. But from this point, further south, no archaeologist has had a look. So for the next 4 or 5 days, we're going into uncharted territory.
Like us, Alexander's regiments pushed on. From the Oxus River lowlands, we've been travelling north. The road we are following may not seem so important today, but we're only 300 kilometres from the fertile plains of the Indus Valley in India. This is an ancient highway. For over 2,000 years before Alexander arrived, it was an important link between the Bactrian and Indus civilizations, two of the oldest and most advanced in world history. And it was only one of a huge network of trade routes. After Alexander's conquest, these communication links became the arteries of the greatest of all Greek empires. Nomadic people like the Kushi have been transporting and trading goods and livestock along these same roads for millennia.
You look good.
Today, the passes into India are closed to the Kushi, and their nomadic cycle now lies only within the borders of Afghanistan. Life here today is more dangerous than ever. The Kushi population has been decimated by landmines. They were planted over 30 years ago, during the war between Soviet invaders and the Afghan Mujahideen resistance. We've arranged to stop for the night at a Halo Trust landmine clearance camp. It's a UK charity that's systematically removing the millions of landmines in Afghanistan. The commander and his team have allowed me to watch them work.
So you have to wear our helmets from here.
Okay. We're just signing and writing our blood group in case something does go wrong. They know what to pump into us. Thank you.
Painted rocks guide us in. During the Soviet occupation, this was an army base. They planted landmines all around, the most deadly kind of defense mechanism.
And this is what they're looking for. This is the outer casing of an anti-personnel mine, and it's rubber, so it's very, very hard to detect. The other parts are ceramic. The only metal is actually a spring and a firing pin.
To date, landmines have killed 76 local people. And 4 of the Halo Trust team have died just in the last few months. Every time the metal detector gives a signal, it's a tense moment.
This is obviously a really delicate exercise, and I just can't believe how brave these guys are to do this every day. 5 in the morning till 12 in the afternoon, and all they do is dig up mines so people can come and plant their crops and actually have a normal life. It must be one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.
To keep these ancient trade routes open, the team risk their lives every minute, and they're paid just $120 a month.
And this is the frustrating part. Most of the time, it's just a bullet, an empty casing. But you can never tell. Either it's going to be a landmine or a jump-up booby-trap mine. So it's a very painstaking, very slow job. You can imagine that every square metre of this whole field and all around this old Soviet base has to be cleared inch by inch.
The team have now found a mine. They clear the area, prepare an explosive, and pack it in around the mine to destroy it safely. For me, the work of the Halo Trust is a sobering reminder of how perilous it can be exploring the past here in Afghanistan. Landmines are one hidden killer Alexander didn't have to look out for. But his crossing was far from easy. Ambushes and rock slides made every pass a potentially fatal trap. Now I want to find one of the most important treasures of the Oxus, a rare semi-precious stone traded from here as far afield as ancient Egypt. But first, we have to cross what many call the Afghan Badlands, a realm so hostile that it was never tamed by Alexander. Even the Afghan government has very little control here. It's the stomping ground of the Islamic force, the Mujahideen. Not somewhere you want to get lost. And we need directions.
Didn't know about that.
Think this was going to happen?
Jamshed.
Is this the Kishim Road?
Yes, this is
So we go
Kishim
back
Road.
that way. Where is the side of the bridge?
In here, down.
Yes.
Yes.
We're called over to the police outpost.
Well, it looks like we're just being checked out because they weren't expecting anybody, particularly anybody like me, turning up right in the middle of nowhere. I've been summoned.
Yeah, he's a religious leader.
This can be a bit of a tricky area because there's still a lot of Mujahideen leaders here, or what they call Mujahid leaders, but basically the government doesn't have a lot of control here. And this gentleman is actually a policeman, and so he's one of the only guys that is good to meet here, and he didn't know who we were, and it's a bit of a tricky area. So everybody's happy now. We'll see if we can find out something.
We get directions to the ancient route through the mountainous heart of Afghanistan. Across the Kocha, a tributary of the Oxus, we head north towards Faizabad, the mountain capital of Badakhshan province. This is the only centre of any size for hundreds of kilometres. Faizabad's a raw frontier town. Today, the ancient trade routes carry opium to Tajikistan and Taliban fighters to the north. We need to stock up on supplies, and the produce in Faizabad market is a pleasant surprise.
This is like an Aladdin's cave, isn't it? All the things you really, really need when you're a Westerner in Afghanistan.
But it's not just food I'm after. There's one very special commodity that I want to find. A raw material that was exported all over the ancient world, prized in the highest echelons by the Egyptian pharaohs.
Well, this stuff is like gold up here. It's called Lapis Lazuli, and Badakhshan is absolutely famous for it. Now, if you remember the mask of Tutankhamun, with those wonderful gold stripes and then blue, well, this is this stuff. It's been coming out of this part of the world for about 7,000 years, and there's little shops all over the place making jewelry. But further south from here, about a day's journey, are the actual mines, where they mine the stuff for Tutankhamun's mask, and that's where we're going to head. Thank you.
Tutankhamun is the most famous Egyptian king of all time. When he died 3,300 years ago, his mummy was adorned with an extravagant golden death mask. It's one of the most iconic symbols of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship in existence today. The long strips of blue stone are made of lapis, hand-cut and transported from the mines of ancient Bactria. Just like the conquering Greeks, I'm looking for the source of this treasure. And there's one place, high in the mountains, so rich in lapis, it's still mined today.
Well, this is not the best place for this to happen. This area isn't that secure. So it's about the worst place we actually want to be stopped and changing a puncher for 20 minutes. Doesn't feel so good.
The road we're on has to be one of the most isolated in the world.
قریبه بسیار نیم ساعت رن نمونده
نیم ساعت پای پیاده.
What did he say? He said that it's half hour.
Half hour. So very close.
Yeah, very close.
We climb higher and higher to the age-old mining settlement of Sarsang and move our gear into the police compound. Every day, goods and tools are either hauled in here or improvised on the spot. Other than expensive generators, there's no power. Outsiders here are rare. Foreign faces make people decidedly uneasy. The local commander has enough trouble keeping control of this remote outpost without having to look out for uninvited travellers. But we're guests, and as guests, we automatically fall under our host's protection. Without fuss, a meal appears, and Jamshid and Habib fill the commander in on news from the outside world. Embracing this culture of hospitality enables us to penetrate so deeply into these remote corners of Afghanistan unarmed. The miners' settlement is spread out over what looks very much like an avalanche zone. Shelters built entirely out of local rock shield the miners from the elements, winter and summer. Lapis has been mined here for thousands of years, and it is still valuable today. It's these men's livelihood. In these remote highlands, there's no government controls on lapis. Most of it is packed on mules all the way to the stonecutters of Pakistan and India. Way above the valley are the mines. Like seams of gold, the veins of lapis run deep into the mountainsides. I walk with the light-headed effort of altitude and the promise of exploring the oldest continuously worked mine anywhere on Earth. This every day, hauling heavy mining equipment is a punishing life.
Well, we're at about 3,000 meters here, and it's cool inside the mine. There's a breeze coming out of here. It's much, much cooler than the 35 degrees outside. But what's incredible is this mine has been worked continuously for between 6,000 and 7,000 years, and this whole mountain is catacombed with little tunnels. And from here, the lapis has been taken right across the world, even to ancient Egypt.
As we pick our way along the tunnels, it's like walking through time. This is mine number 1, the oldest of all. Over thousands of years, generations of miners cut this tunnel deeper and deeper into the rock face. Somewhere here in the darkness, there's a point where around 1325 BC, an exceptionally rich blue vein was found and extracted.
Well, this is what they're looking for. This is a whole scene through here. I don't really know the quality because obviously I'm not a gem expert, but you can see if I put some water on it, the blue really starts to come out. And it's just marvelous that nature makes this color. You know, nowhere else do you see a blue like that. Marvelous.
In the hands of an Egyptian royal jeweler, rocks of lapis were transformed, cut, polished and bound in gold to make the dazzling death mask of King Tutankhamun. Sealed in his solid gold tomb to protect his journey to the afterlife. The riches of the Oxus tell the story of civilization's earliest beginnings. They reveal that long before Alexander, our world was far more connected than I'd ever realized. Luxury goods were loaded onto caravans and trading boats and transported. 300 kilometers to Harappa in the Indus Valley, 2,500 kilometers to Babylon in Mesopotamia, 3,800 kilometers to Thebes in ancient Egypt, and over 4,000 kilometers to Athens in Greece. Today, these miners labour to meet world demand for this alluring blue stone.
Salam. How are you? My God.
این ماشین کمپیروسونه این تو جوازه میکنه باز دینامو پر میشه باز پتاقی و پلته
Says that we put dynamite here first to make a hole, and they put dynamite inside and blast it, and then they clean it till they find the vein. You see if the vein is going here. Yes. So that's the following.
How long has he worked in the mine here?
من چقدر وقت تو اینجا کار میکنی؟
دیجو یک سال
1 year.
1 year. So it's very dusty work they're doing. And the problem is, you never know where these veins go. It's like gold. And sometimes they get right on one like this, and then they can follow it. but a lot of the time they lose it and they spend weeks and weeks trying to find them again. So sometimes work doesn't pay very well. Thank you.
These are terrible conditions. In Sarsang, lung disease is just a matter of time. But it's death by dynamite and rock falls that are all too often the common killers. This is one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. An earthquake could hit at any time. After each long shift, every miner lugs his treasure down the mountain, where middlemen and traders bid for the raw stone. Lapis is formed of 3 different minerals: lazurite, calcite and pyrite. And its quality varies depending on its colour and smoothness of texture.
So what we're looking for is really, really deep blue. So these are really nice pieces, which are probably worth taking. See, this one would be lovely to make a pendant or a heart. And that one's like a lovely sort of amulet. But all of these together, how much?
The work of these 21st century Afghans is a living link back to the time of Alexander.
Very good. Thank you very much.
For the ancient Greeks, conquest and occupation began by controlling the mountain passes and the flow of trade. Alexander was undefeated in battle. And now he set his sights on a land with even more mineral wealth than Bactria. For the Greeks, India was the eastern edge of their known world. It was a mysterious and exotic source of untold riches: gold, textiles and precious minerals. And the mountain passes into India have hardly changed since Alexander passed through here almost 2,300 years ago. We've driven over 600 kilometres from the Oxus River Valley across some of the most rugged terrain in the world. The Wakhan Corridor is a 330-kilometre strip of land bordered by Tajikistan to the north and Pakistan to the south. We're following an ancient highway that leads to India. The Pamir mountain valleys are some of the highest on Earth. That's why English explorers named it the roof of the world. Ancient caravans would trek along these grueling crossroads between the east and west.
Trouble with travelling on these rivers is you've got to do it at the right time. Otherwise, if there's too much water, you just can't get through. For the next 4 or 5 k's, we've just got to go straight up the riverbed.
Before invading India, Alexander had to secure his army's supply line. But he was constantly harried by local tribes, who would ambush his army before retreating to seemingly impenetrable mountain fortresses. I want to find out what it was like for Greek troops to attack one of these natural bastions. and there are no roads where we're heading. We cross the Oxus, where the Wakhan meets the Boragil Pass into Pakistan and India beyond. Alexander and his army battled their way through these ranges for 6 long months in the dead of winter. He is believed to have crossed from Afghanistan into India, south of here. But I'm convinced over the months, Alexander would have split his army into different units to crush resistance along the strategic passes of this mountain corridor. Greek records tell us Alexander laid siege to one great fortified crag here in the Pamir. But dozens more must have gone unreported. And over 100 years ago, in 1904, an intrepid archaeologist explorer came here on Alexander's trail. His name was Aurel Stein.
Shafi, where do you think? Where to cross?
In spite of Stein's efforts, to date, the evidence of these remote citadels from Alexander's time is scant. But I believe this place can shed a great deal of light on Alexander's mountain battles. Built over 1,300 years ago by the Tibetans, this ruined fort is a monument to a lost chapter in history. The site of one of the most ruthless sieges ever to take place in these mountains. It's known as Cancia Fort, and it was just like the defences Alexander and his men would have come up against. Its story gives us an idea of the tactics that earned Alexander a reputation as the greatest besieger of all time. In 747 AD, the Tibetans ruled this valley. They built the fortress to resist the invading armies of China. Between 7 and 9 in the morning, 3 columns of Chinese cavalry and infantry mustered into a 10,000-strong force in the valley below. The Chinese commander, Xian Qi, moved quickly to cut off all approaches to the stronghold, crushing the defences at river level in a few hours. Then they scaled these steep slopes to the isolated citadel. High in their rock fortress, the Tibetans seemed safe, but in fact, they were hopelessly trapped.
Well, that is one hell of a climb. This citadel stands at about 4,200 metres, and our guides have just told me that we're the first Westerners that they know who've actually made it up here. It's an incredible place. Incredible to build, but I think incredible to defend. And if you can imagine back there in August 747, the Tibetans up here, looking across the valley there at 10,000 Chinese assembling, and then them coming steadily across the river. It would have been a terrifying sight. And knowing that they couldn't get out of here, it would have been one of the most frightening experiences. And it ended in absolute disaster.
The Chinese experience here at Cancia gives us an insight into what the sieges of the Greeks would have been like. Their strategy just as devastating. Commander Xian Qi now pushed home the final assault.
And he did it with skill. After routing the defences down at river level, he actually massacred 6,000 of the Tibetans. and then he outflanked them. He came up these gullies, and then his men poured through that saddle. There was only about 1,000 Tibetans left here to guard the citadel, and they were overwhelmed. Only about 2,000 or 3,000 actually made it out, and they fled up the Barragal Pass into what is today Pakistan. It is one of the great defeats of military history, right here on the roof of the world.
"1,000 years before the Chinese, it would have been exactly the same for Alexander's troops. Facing what must at times have seemed an impossible challenge, they conquered this hostile borderland. Now the road to India lay open. Ancient legends had told of the riches of the East, and Alexander turned myth into reality. 2,300 years ago, Alexander came to ancient Bactria to conquer his enemy and discovered a realm that overflowed with mineral wealth. His empire would profit from the ancient world's most sought-after currency, precious materials like gold and lapis. They would control ancient trade and communication links all the way from Greek city-states in the west to India in the east. Alexander's success in far-flung lands transformed the Greek Empire and changed our world forever.